Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Okay, so this happened recently and a friend said I should post this. Little background, so I go swimming once a week with my best friend and we like to go into the sauna and the steam room as well as swimming. Since the sauna is so hot, I always take in a bottle of water. I use the same metal water bottle as it keeps the water really chilled. The water bottle is blue and has a picture on it of my favorite Disney character. I love this water bottle to bits, and ever since I got it a year ago, I take it everywhere with me, including work. Well, a few weeks ago, my friend and I were at the pool and had just came out of the sauna. I put the water bottle down on the ledge of the pool and jumped in to cool off. My friend and I were doing laps in. As I'm at the bottom of the pool swimming back up, I see this kid grab my water bottle and make a run for it to the other side of the pool. I shout out, "Hey, that's mine!" I see the kid run faster. I can see they are headed for the exit, so I swim to the side of the pool and jump out to cut them off. I get out and tell the woman, "Excuse me, your kid has my water bottle." She makes this coughing sound and tries to walk around me, but I block her and say, "Excuse me, your kid has my water bottle again." She turns to the kid and says, "It's a kid's water bottle, and it's meant for kids to grow up and get out of her way." At this point, I know I'm dealing with one of those moms, so I tell the kid to hand it over. She clutches the thing for dear life and whines for her mom. It's hers and that she wants it. The mom tells me her kid wants it and it's for kids. So that's that and to move. I tell her I will knock her into the pool and take it if she doesn't hand it over. The mom then starts screaming that I'm threatening her and trying to steal from her kid. My friend is in the pool laughing her butt off. At this point, the lifeguard and another staff member come over and demand to know what's going on. The entitled mom tells him I'm trying to steal her kid's water bottle. I told the staff member it was mine and I brought it with me. The guy says it's not a problem, and then they check the security camera and see who came in with it. The lifeguard, however, has seen us a few times. He and my mate always have a laugh. He tells the other guy it's mine and I'm a regular. I come in with it all the time. The entitled mom starts huffing that it's a kid's water bottle though, and that they are leaving. The staff member tells her to hand it over to me now, or they will call the police and have them both banned for life. She grabs the water bottle from her kid and literally chucks it into the pool, almost hitting someone with it, as screams go fetch before grabbing her kid and pulling the screaming kid out of there. The lifeguard starts to laugh and my friend, who is also laughing, just points to where it sank and laughs, "Yeah, go fetch." Not gonna lie, it took me 2 tries to dive down and get it. It was just another ordinary day on a subway. People were going about their usual routine, some were reading books, some were listening to music, and others were just staring blankly into space. I was one of the latter, lost in my own thoughts when the chaos started. It was like something out of a movie. Suddenly, a Karen burst through the subway doors, nearly knocking over a man in the process. She had a look of pure anger on her face, and it was directed at a pregnant woman who was sitting at one of the seats. "Get up!" Karen yelled. "I saw that seat first, and I want to sit on it." The pregnant woman just looked at her, confused. "Excuse me?" she said, trying to remain calm. "You heard me," Karen continued, getting angrier by the second. "Get up and let me sit down." "I'm sorry, but I really need to sit down," the pregnant woman responded. "I've been on my feet all day and I just need to rest now." But Karen was having none of it. She stepped forward and grabbed the pregnant woman's arm, trying to pull her up from the seat. The woman let out a cry of pain and the people around her started to take notice. "What are you doing?" I heard a young girl ask Karen, her voice filled with shock. Karen turned to face the girl, who looked to be about 16 or 17 years old. "Mind your own business," Karen snapped, but the girl wasn't backing down. "You're hurting her," the girl said, taking a step forward. "Let her go." Karen just laughed and tightened her grip on the pregnant woman's arm. That was when a girl took a swing and decked Karen right in the face. Karen stumbled back stunned. The girl didn't waste any time. She grabbed Karen by the arm and started to pull her away from the pregnant woman. "Someone call the cops," she yelled. "This woman is trying to hurt this lady." A few people got out their phones and dialed 911. Within minutes, two police officers entered the subway car, and they started to assess the situation. The pregnant woman was shaken, but thankfully she was okay. Karen, on the other hand, was a completely different story. She was screaming and cursing, telling the officer that she had every right to sit in that seat. "Ma'am, calm down," one of the officers said, trying to get Karen under control. "We need to take a statement from everyone involved, and then we will sort this out." But Karen was having none of it. She continued to fight until finally the officers had enough. They stepped forward, grabbed Karen by the arms, and placed her in handcuffs. "You are under arrest for disorderly conduct and assault," one of the officers said, reading her rights. "You have the right to remain silent." Karen continued to fight and curse as the officers escorted her off the subway and into a police car. The rest of us just sat there in stunned silence, trying to process what had just happened. The young girl who had decked Karen was still there, looking a little shaken but also proud of herself. "Good for you," I heard someone say to her. "You stood up for what was right." The girl just smiled, looking down at the ground. "I couldn't just stand there and watch her hurt that lady," she said. "It's not right." The rest of the ride was quiet. People were still in shock from what had happened, and the pregnant woman was being comforted by a few kind strangers. I couldn't help but think about the entitled attitude that Karen had displayed. She saw that just because she saw the seat first, she had the right to take it from someone who really needed it. It was a sad reminder of the kind of behavior that can still exist in our society today. As I got off the subway and made my way home, I couldn't help but think about how lucky I was to have witnessed that young girl's bravery. She had stood up for what was right and had taken action when no one else would. She was a shining example of what it means to be a good person, and her actions would stay with me for a long time to come. It is a reminder that we all have a responsibility to look out for one another, especially those who are vulnerable. The next time I see someone in need, I hope I have the courage to stand up and help, just like that young girl did. Entitled behavior like Karen's has no place in our society, and it's time we all stand up and make it clear that this kind of behavior will not be tolerated. We need to come together as a community and show that kindness and empathy are the qualities that truly matter. An old Facebook memory popped up on my feed recently and reminded me of this. Years ago, I worked for a big box office supply retailer in Canada. During my last 3 or so years there, I was a member of what they called the project team. The purpose of this team was to travel the country and to work on the physical appearance of different locations. One project might be a week-long $500,000 minor renovation to modernize the looks, physically move 1 or 2 aisles around, and rework some of the planograms. The next project might be a multi-million-dollar new build that would take many weeks and would involve taking over operations once our construction contractors were nearing completion and we were expecting a couple dozen fully loaded trailers of merchandise to arrive. Occasionally, though far less often than one would think, we would come into a store that was being shut down and help facilitate the movement of product to other locations before turning the lights off for good. This particular project was one of my first major ones since joining the team, so I wasn't terribly familiar with timelines and how long things should take. But this one was a relocation job. We were shutting down one store and reopening it in an old chapters building a few blocks away. The time given was 3 weeks, I believe, though might have been 4. I mean, it's been a decade since this happened. Well, we needed that time to open the new location, and the closure would take an additional week. We also had a brand new hire working as our project coordinator, though the new directly below him were experienced members and would help smooth out any wrinkles. But the BC had ultimate say on how things will proceed. Hard opening was scheduled for day 0 and the home office had hired a local radio station to host a couple of their morning DJs there, had set up a traditional Chinese celebration including dragon dancers, and a couple local politicians were to cut the ribbon. So we couldn't easily reschedule should any major issues arise. First couple weeks went smoothly. We brought on 24 temp workers to help put the shelving units together and start setting up product and planograms. I was put in charge of receiving the seemingly endless train of trucks dropping off new products and ensuring there were no discrepancies. A few small hiccups occurred, but nothing that couldn't be quickly solved with a polite yet firm phone call to the offending freight company's dispatch team to run traces on missing pallets and to hotshot them here as soon as possible once found. By now, we were starting the third week of 6 10-hour shifts, and we discovered things were starting to slowly fall apart during our Monday morning scrum. We had finished installing the networking gear and set up the store computers and POS systems, but nothing would connect or talk to one another. This meant none of the products we had received could be properly put into the system to show on hands. Registers wouldn't talk to anything. So even if we could show stock, we wouldn't be able to charge any customers. Even the internal network that would allow the copy center to print to different printers wouldn't work. Then we realized we were starting to fall behind on getting planograms set up. There was a furniture pad that had yet to see a single desk or chair constructed, and a million tiny tasks had yet to be addressed. It basically amounted to 2 weeks' worth of work needing to be done in one. We warned the home office but couldn't get an extension on the opening. It had to open by the end of that week. No excuse. Okay then. 10-hour shifts turned into 12, which quickly turned to 14-hour shifts. The hotel staff were fantastic and took pity on us, allowing special outside hours, access to the rooftop hot tub, as we usually didn't get back until after it normally closed, and we needed nothing more than a hot soak and cold beer at the end of each day. The final day of prep rolled around and we're still at least a day behind. That morning at 7, we load up on Starbucks and Red Bull and warn our teams that it will be a long day. We tell them that if they would like to stay, it is guaranteed double time pay for whatever extra time they put in, but no hurt feelings if they just want to bug out at the normal time. 5 rolls around and the majority of the teams take off, leaving just 6 behind. A couple more leave after 2 or 3 hours as they have other obligations, and we're now down to 4 temps and our core internal team of 6. Midnight decides to arrive and our network finally goes online. Mad dash to finalize all that. 2 in the morning makes a shy appearance, only to find all of us passed out on chairs for a quick nap. Mind you, we're all still punched into work since 7 that morning. Short nap finishes and we make a mad dash to at least give an appearance of a finished project. A few hours later, around 7, we start seeing regional and district managers showing up, along with the staff that will work at this location. We're basically delirious from a lack of proper sleep, yet we're not done. Next up is to put on our manager uniforms and help with the grand opening, just in case something pops up that needs our help. 10 in the morning finally arrives, and our PC tells us to go home, and that he will explain to payroll why we just pulled a 27-hour shift. Understandably, it took a bit of convincing from our leadership team to actually prove that our punch times were correct, and even more finagling to override the payroll systems to ensure we were properly paid, as whoever had programmed the software had never considered any sane person would work that long in a single shift. Needless to say, my next big project with a similar scale was miraculously expanded to run for 6 weeks instead. It was a nice paycheck though. So I, 33 male, work for the Blue Store with a yellow spark and have for 10 years, starting as an overnight temp but now work for the online department of a different store, mainly because it was closer to my at the time fiancé than the hour-long drive it would have taken one way. I had been working in the bakery/deli department and, as many know, The store closes the deli department at around 9 p.m. or so to give the associates time to get the department cleaned for the morning crew the next day. As it was well before the pandemic by a good 5 to 6 years, the store only had one day where the doors were not open to anyone: Christmas. Back then, the store I had moved to was a 24-hour store, as opposed to the smaller one I started in, which was only open between 6 a.m. and midnight. The new store, which is the one I still work in, would be closed to the public by 8 p.m. Christmas Eve. A wooden tree open to the public until 6 a.m. the day after Christmas, reasonable enough to allow the associates to spend time with their families for one day of the year. This particular Christmas Eve, I was working the closing shift at the deli, 11:15 to 8:15 that night, and as we got to 6 p.m. we closed our department. Standard procedure was to have one person in the back to wash the pans and cooking components of the hot sides. One person will clean the hot side, hot case, fryer, and rotisserie oven, and the rest, usually 2 to 3, would clean the slicers on the cold cut side. It was going on almost 7:15. The announcement that we were closing soon emitting from the PA system. AP Assist Protection was stationed near the doors to start turning people away as we closed, and I was busy cleaning up one of the slicers. I believe it was the messiest of all of them. The cheese slicer. Seriously, the cheese residue from a day's use is crazy. When we heard a commotion in the front of the store. Now the thing was that the deli was right at the front, just off to one side near the registers. So we were about to get front row seats to this amazing piece of drama. Apparently a man had decided 10 to 15 minutes before closing that he absolutely needed to go to Walmart to shop. However, as he approached the store, he was stopped by AP and told that the store was closing and that new shoppers would have to wait until after Christmas to do their shopping. His response was to rather loudly complain that Walmart never closes. He then barged through and began to argue with AP about how Walmart should not be closed. Walmart never closes, and how this was such a general inconvenience to him. It was this tirade he was spewing to security as he rounded the corner, and I saw him for the first time, and he looked in our direction. I will never forget what he said next, mainly from the tone of his voice, because as we were working, he was throwing his grown-up tantrum, and he loudly proclaimed, "Even the deli is closed. Why the hell is the deli closed?" He said it as if we had the audacity to not remain open so as to cater to his whim. I just gave a look that basically said, "Hey, we are not the ones who made the schedule or rules, but we are following what we need to do, and I would like to go home to spend time with my family, my soon-to-be wife and in-laws." I went back to work just as one of my co-workers, Rob, not real name, poked his head out from the back where he was doing dishes to see what was going on. The man was stopped from continuing into the store by members of AP as well as management, then escorted out of the store. I like to imagine that he was banned for a time, but I can't be sure because I never asked, and it's been 6 to 7 or so years since. But I keep getting reminded of this man and how he needed to shop at literally the last minute on Christmas Eve. I used to work in a role where I administered the security access card system for a huge office. An obnoxious colleague used to take a shortcut from the lobby through a meeting room and out the other side to his desk, but in doing so, he would leave the meeting room's entrance door open, which would sound an alarm once he had left the area. I sat in the lobby near the door he left open, and I was the one who had to get up and close it for him. He didn't respond to polite requests to stop, so I disabled his access pass, but only on the second door, which is closest to his desk. He'd walk through the meeting room, get 6 feet from his desk, and be declined by the door. This caused him to have a walk back to me to ask if something was wrong with his access. I'd ask him to close the shortcut door he'd opened, alarm now sounding, and he always did. Then I'd act confused and say, "Why don't you try it on that other door over there?" and direct him to the proper entrance to the office area, which had a mysterious 100% success rate for letting him through. I simulated an intermittent technical error by deactivating his card and then reactivating it for well over 12 months. I acted dumb anytime he questioned it. I've asked ICT about it, but nobody knows, mate. Who knows how these systems work? Sometimes he would forget his personal pass in. I would issue him a visitor pass and disable that on his shortcut too, which added an extra layer of obfuscation. Sometimes I'd allow him to use his shortcut and I'd happily close the door behind him, knowing that it was all part of his education. Eventually, he learned that it was always quicker to walk straight to the proper entrance, and he stopped taking the shortcut and stopped leaving the alarm door near me open, and he never found out that I trained him. I was poor my entire life, up to and including graduate school. I was working at 3 jobs, had an internship and was finishing up classes my last year. I honestly don't know where I found that time looking back. Anyhow, as a poor student, I didn't have access to all the right tech for a class project. The library had some, but they were in such demand it was difficult to get, so as soon as I knew what I needed, I asked a classmate, call her Penny, to help me out and she agreed. I checked with Penny a few times prior to the meeting and we were good to go. As you probably guessed, Penny doesn't show. She doesn't answer texts, calls or emails. I frantically tried to get in with the library, but it's like a 2-week wait, so I can't. I emailed my professor for an extension and he denied it. She did the damn assignment without me. I ended up with a B in a class which is not good in grad school. About 2 years later, I'm working in our field and Penny applies. She gets through an interview or 2, then has a group interview. I'm there, and she tries a friendly approach with me that I shrug off. When decision time comes, I pull for the other candidate hard. I even shared the story about her screwing me over, and I'm pretty sure that's why they went with the other person. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.